door with your hands up. We have a search warrant.
Now to this, a quiet Tahunga neighborhood rocked by flashbangs. Federal agents storm a property tied to the shocking allegations of sex trafficking. That dramatic raid today tied to an alleged TikTok cult.
Fox 11's Gina Silva. She joins us now live in Tahunga with more there. Gina?
Well, it may have started as a Netflix documentary, but now it is a full-blown federal investigation. Now, right behind me, this property is usually closed up tight every single day, but today, federal agents ran through that gate.
Attention, attention. Anyone inside? Come to the front door with your hands up. We have a search warrant.
It sounded like gunshots to me.
In the early morning hours, local and federal law enforcement arrived in this quiet Tahunga neighborhood to serve a search warrant, alleging sex trafficking, money laundering, tax evasion, mail fraud, and COVID-19 pandemic-related fraud.
It's really, really creepy, and this is a really great, quiet little community, and a lot of families.
They must have rammed the gate to get in there. Look at that.
The front gate of the property lies mangled and twisted, clear evidence of a forced entry. Sky Fox captured video of 5 people in handcuffs. This is the same location tied to Shekinah Church and 7M Films, both at the center of serious allegations in a Netflix documentary released in May 2024.
7M, an entertainment company founded by Robert Shin, who's also the pastor of LA-based Shekinah Church.
The documentary, titled Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult, alleges emotional and psychological manipulation.
It started out fairly innocuous, but the control slowly grew.
If I remember correctly, this was a documentary that I actually watched a little bit of on Netflix, where the center or the focus was largely tied to a girl that also had a sister, and her name was Miranda, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. And she got tied up into this whole thing where she got invited to basically be a part of a whole community. We like to call it a cult, but it was called a community, where they were basically creating TikTok videos and they were inviting dancers, if my memory served me correctly, because I think that this was like well over a year ago, but they were basically inviting content creators and influencers and dancers to be a part of this community where they basically would make videos and they would train and stuff. But the creepy part about it was that it was ran by this guy, and he was a pastor, and they owned this house where all of these creators basically went and they created all of this content. Well, where it became creepy, if I'm not mistaken, is that the children or the kids who were of age, right? It's not like they were super underage. They were of age, but they were very, very young. They cut off all contact to their people. And so they were basically tied to this place where it was like really creepy, and the parents couldn't get in touch with the people anymore and all of this stuff. And so it basically set off a series of events which basically had these producers that produced this Netflix documentary that basically highlighted that it was a cult and the people was being interviewed and they couldn't really get in touch with their people anymore and all of this stuff. And so it started to turn into that. Here's the thing. By the time in 2025 that they actually stormed through and found out what was going on, because this is the way that the justice system works inside of the United States of America. You can't necessarily go after anybody until you have some concrete evidence that something is wrong. So you can do a health check, you can send the police over there, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. But the fact of the matter is, if the person is of age and they voluntarily say that they don't want to be involved, you can't necessarily say, well, you know, you have to come home. That's where the dilemma comes, right? Our moral compass versus the law. Our moral compass versus the law. So let's just say, for example, if a girl decides that she want to run off with a guy, but then she's 18, 19 years old, and you don't necessarily like the guy or you don't care for the guy, but then at the same time, you can't necessarily say that they did anything wrong because they don't no longer want to be in contact with you because he got control over her mind. And he basically said, listen, in order to be with me, you got to cut off everybody and everything, or you got to cut off your parents. And then all of the people is want to do a health and safety check, and they see that you okay, necessarily that nothing is wrong with you. There is no police reports. but then at the same time, they concerned because this is not the way that they raised you. How can we as people say, well, you know what, they did something wrong, you need to go and take her back and give her back to her parents, when they're legally of age to do what they want to do? You can say that it may not be right, you can say that you don't necessarily care for the guy, but you can't say that they did anything wrong. So that's where this whole dilemma comes in, because they had to wait until they actually got, concrete evidence, I'm assuming, and this is one of the reasons why they raided, because if you go back, they alleged sex trafficking. I'm sure they was busting it down for a real one. How can you prove sex trafficking unless it was prostitution somehow or whatever? But if the people actually said that they was, they wanted to do what they wanted to do, how can you prove it? Sex trafficking is a very, very broad term. And let's be clear, I'm not defending this nonsense. I think that it looks more suspicious than what it is. But me personally, as a content creator, I always like to reserve judgment, because we know that charges are broad in order to try to take down people, such as what happened in the whole Diddy case. You can't necessarily say that he was doing a RICO, because everybody was there because they wanted to actually be there. You can say domestic violence, a lot of things. The money laundering is probably something that's much more easily provable. Tax evasion, yeah, you can probably prove that. Mail fraud, they usually tie that with money laundering, especially when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, because you could say PPP fraud or whatever, and all of this other stuff, right? So the authorities technically need a reason to be able to go in there and then be able to search to find out if it's anything else that they can charge you with. But this is largely based off of the fact that a documentary spurred it, that then incentivized them to go and do this investigation, and then people got emotionally involved, and that's why you see all of the outpouring and the outcry that comes along with it.
Fraud and COVID-19 pandemic-related fraud.
It's really, really creepy, and this is a really great, quiet little community, and a lot of families.
They must have rammed the gate to get in there. Look at that.
The front gate of the property lies mangled and twisted, clear evidence of a forced entry. Sky Fox captured video of 5 people in handcuffs. This is the same location tied to Shekinah Church and 7M Films, both at the center of serious allegations in a Netflix documentary released in May 2024.
7M, an entertainment company founded by Robert Shin, who's also the pastor of LA-based Shekinah Church.
The documentary, titled Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult, alleges emotional and psychological manipulation.
It started out fairly innocuous, but the control slowly grew.
We feel liberated. We feel that finally maybe there's a chance for justice to be served.
Melanie Lee joined Shekinah Church at 15 and left in her 20s. She accuses Pastor Shin of abuse and running the group as a cult. After years of urging law enforcement to investigate, she now says she feels vindicated.
I know for a fact that they will find things that he's done that are, evil, and he's a criminal. I can definitely say that, whatever's coming for him, he deserves it.
The one thing that I don't like about all of this is when people talk in ghost, like, what does that even mean? You know what I'm saying? Yes, I could think that is demonic, or yes, I can have my own theories or whatever. But like, give me something. You know what I'm saying? Give me some concrete, hard, yo, he was doing this. Yo, he busted down for a real one. Yes, I understand occult-like accusations, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily prove criminal activity. Whatever it is that I'm pretty sure they're going to find something. What the fuck does that mean? You know what I'm saying? If you saying it's just on some money stuff, then okay, yeah, all right, that's easy to prove. But when you're talking about trafficking and all of this stuff, and it's a cult-like environment, does he have multiple women? What is going on? Does he have people coming in, busting it down for a real one? What does that mean?
Now the search warrant is sealed, so we don't have an idea as to what the agents were looking for at this specific property. But former members say whatever it is, they're confident the agents will find it. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
How long, Gina, have federal investigators been working this case?
The documentary came out in May of 2024. We don't know how long ago this investigation started, and like I said, the search warrant is still sealed, so we don't know the details. But the former member we spoke with has been part of the investigation, and she says that they've been working very hard on this for quite some time.
Yeah, I want to know what it is. Like, again, I know that people are quick to, you know what I'm saying, jump to a conclusion or say this is that or whatever. I always want to see what happened or what it is that they're actually being accused of outside of influencing your kid who you should have had more influence over and determining whether or not they wanted to leave home and go and live in this cult-like mansion. So I'm going to keep my eyes peeled, and I'm definitely going to be on top of it. Make sure you guys tap into the Patreon link is in the description. Teach Henley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life.